Yo guys, welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm giving you guys a spoiler-free review of Netflix's upcoming movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal called The Guilty. Before we get into it, if you guys are new in here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you don't miss any time I upload a new video or I go live. Both are wasting more time. Let's get into it. The Guilty starring Jake Gyllenhaal is about a troubled police detective who's demoted to 911 operating duty who scrambles to save a distressed caller during a harrowing day of revelations and reckonings. Now, going into this movie, I had absolutely zero expectations, and this movie did surprise me in a lot of ways, which I am excited to talk about there, but there were a lot of different things in this movie that I really just didn't like. So I want to start off by talking about some of my favorite parts about this movie. Now, the best thing in this movie, in my opinion, is the phenomenal direction. The director of this movie, forgot his name, I apologize, sir, but you are a legend for this. This movie all takes place in one setting. There's a few shots, like once in a while in the movie, maybe like 2 or 3 times, that leave the office 911 operating area. Other than that, it does not leave that one building / that one setting. It never leaves it, and they tell a whole story through that, and it's so great. You don't see any other actors. Paul Dano is in this movie, Ethan Hawke is in this movie, but you don't see them at all. It's so well done in my opinion, and to keep someone engaged for this long in just one setting and actually making me attentive means you have to have a really good story on your hands, and I think the main story was pretty great. I will say though, towards the middle and end, it did get a little bit mid. It was never bad in my opinion. The side story on their hand was really bad in my opinion. There was just this one side story. I feel like they're using it to keep tension on Jake Gyllenhaal's character outside of the main story, which is cool. It added a little more tension, but overall that side story just wasn't really it for me. But moving back to the main story, I think that in order to keep your audience that engaged, you have to have a phenomenal story. You don't have any set pieces, you don't have any action pieces, you don't even have any like setting pieces other than the one 911 operating building, and they did a great job with what they had. They also shot this during the pandemic, which it makes sense. It's kind of like Malcolm and Marie, where it's one setting the entire time, except unlike Malcolm and Marie, this one can be entertained the whole time. I never once was even tempted to press the forward 10 seconds button on the movie because I really enjoyed my time watching it for the most part until the very end. So once the story is resolved, everything's not good and fine. There's still that side story that I was talking about, and that takes up another like 8 to 10 minutes of the movie at the very end. Honestly, I think they could have completely cut it out. That I don't really like that, especially when you have a whole movie talking about how Jake Gyllenhaal's character is trying to save this person or this woman and her family, which is what the summary says, and it just at the end, it's that case is solved. Like that case comes to a closure, whether it's a good closure or a bad closure, it ends. It comes to a closure, but there's still like 9 minutes of another story that was just an underlying story throughout the entirety of the movie, which just makes the movie end on a weird note. It felt really abrupt when it came to the closing of the movie overall, but I honestly thought the closing to the caller case, like where he's talking to the woman and her family and stuff like that case was closed off really well in my opinion. And throughout the movie, I liked how they didn't necessarily start that case right in the beginning. We see Jake Gyllenhaal's character, we see how he was demoted from being a police officer, we see how he hates his job being in a 911 operating room. He hates all these things, right? And in the beginning of the movie, you actually feel that. It's like honestly a good chunk of the first act that you feel that. Second act, everything ramps up, you start to learn a lot of information. In the third act, a good chunk of it's actually really good. It's really interesting. There's like 2 twists, I would say, in the end of the second act and the beginning of the third act. One of them is really predictable, I'm gonna be honest. One of them is just it's like you could see it like from a mile away, but the second twist, that one was absolutely insane. I was not expecting it at all. My jaw honestly dropped. I was so happy with that twist because it felt kind of necessary in order to keep moving the story along. And I thought this movie was just going to be full of twists and turns when I started to comprehend the fact that this movie isn't leaving anywhere from this 911 operating room. We're not going anywhere. We're not seeing any set pieces. So then I was kind of conscious of these storytelling remarks and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, they're not like spamming these twists and turns. Like they're taking their time with this story and they're not throwing a bunch of stuff at once. And I really like that. But one thing that I thought was kind of weird with this movie was the tones. I thought there was just so many tones going around. At first, it was kind of like a police detective thriller, right? But then it just ends up being a police detective thriller, but through the phone. So it's not as intriguing when you look at it from that perspective. At the end of the day, it's still a fun movie. It's still a cool thriller, but it's just through the phone. So the impact just really isn't there for me personally. I never feel attached to anyone's character but Jake Gyllenhaal. And obviously, I'm supposed to be attached to his character. He's the main character. But the woman on the other end of the phone, I don't care for her. I don't care for her situation. I don't really care for her family. Yes, it's sad, but as of viewer, as a watcher, I don't have any emotional character thoughts to even care about when it comes to her. But overall, I thought this movie was a cool movie. I don't think it was anything absolutely special. Same thing goes for Jake Gyllenhaal's performance. I mean, the level of his acting is just so high now that there's just no bad performance from him. I'm gonna be honest. Like, this movie isn't a bad performance from him. I think it's like some of the best acting this year in any movie, but it's not near his top acting performances. That just shows how good of an actor he is. Like, that's not crapping on the movie or anything. Jake Gyllenhaal is just such a good actor that this movie isn't near his top work, and it's still phenomenally done. Overall, I did like this movie. Like I said before, I thought I had an abrupt ending. I thought that the main side story just wasn't really it, but overall, I thought the directing was absolutely phenomenal, keeping us in one setting the entire movie and still keeping me intrigued the entire time. Overall, I really like this movie. I'm gonna honestly give this one a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a great thriller movie. There was just a few aspects that I wasn't the biggest fan of. Tonally, didn't really know where it was gonna go, and at the same time, I just didn't really have a way to connect with characters that I didn't see on screen, and the only character we really see on screen is Jake Gyllenhaal's. But yeah, guys, that's it for the spoiler-free review of The Guilty. Thank you to all of you, because it wouldn't be possible for me to get early screeners without you guys. So if you guys want more of these early movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie reviews and TV series reviews, make sure that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you don't miss any of those videos. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.